Hello guys. Sorry, I'm playing with the puppy right now. I wanted to do a video update instead of writing 495 paragraphs because I know most of you won't read that, and I don't blame you. So I just wanted to do a quick-ish video up, just mostly answering questions because I've gotten about 160 emails since the GoFundMe started 2 weeks ago. And by the way, thank you. We are almost at my in-network out-of-pocket max for next year, which is extraordinary. And like my mom said, it's making December and Christmas a little bit happier for us because we don't have as much weight on our shoulders going into the new year, knowing what my expenses are. Oh, and side note, ignore my hair. My most recent order of shower shields were defective, so I've not showered in several days. Sorry, Gabe. Okay, so I've gotten 160 emails. Most people who have donated to the GoFundMe, read the GoFundMe, and shared the GoFundMe actually don't know me. Stop, Sadie. She's like literally eating my hand for lunch. And so, hold on, let me see if I can get this set up better. Okay. So anyway, I'm getting a lot of the same questions, and instead of writing out a new answer or copying, pasting an answer, and then having it not be personal at all, I thought I'd just do a quick update. First question, what is the transplant I need? The transplant that I have been recommended for and that I've been told I need is at minimum a small bowel transplant. This means it would have to come from a cadaver donor and would be done at Miami Transplant Institute, assuming I pass the evaluation and all those things, like right at the front. Where was I going with that? Oh, I can't tell you for sure if it's going to be a small bowel intestinal transplant that they recommend me for, or something called a multivisceral transplant. That I can't tell you that because they have not determined my liver health as of this point. And so you can't replace intestines if there's not a healthy liver involved. And so depending on what my liver biopsy in January shows, they will decide if it's either an intestinal transplant or multivisceral. Say hi, Sadie, or just keep eating my hand. So that's the kind of transplant that's needed. It is not done often. I've had people say, oh, why have I never heard of it? Because it hardly exists. Even places like Miami, who do the most, on average only do 20 a year. So it is a very rare transplant because really until recently, in like the last decade, because of the nature of the transplant and the risk of rejection, they weren't doing them very often, but now they've been able to come up with a lot of really good anti-rejection meds, and the mortality rates and stuff are extraordinarily better than they were. So it's not a surgery that's done often by any means. The wait time on one of these surgeries is way less than that of the other organs. Hearts, lungs, livers, and kidneys are in much more demand because those are more well-known surgeries and kind of clear-cut surgeries, where this one is not necessarily that. So average wait time for a small bowel transplant at Miami is actually only 1.2 months. I know people who have waited 17 months. I know people who have waited 2 months. I know somebody who waited 8 days. It's literally impossible to know because, unfortunately, until somebody else passes away and is a perfect match for you, and then every condition, has to be met, there is literally no way to know or plan for something like that. I've been asked if I'm getting a transplant in January. No. My January is my official transplant evaluation. I've already talked with the transplant board. I've already talked with the transplant surgeons. They know my case. They know everything about me. And they kind of got together around a table and said, yeah, this is someone who will need a transplant at some point very soon. And so they've already agreed to take me on. As of right now, I am a transplant patient, which means all of my care from this point forward has to be approved through the transplant team and approved with the mindset that they can't do any procedures or any medications or anything that would risk messing up transplant. When I go for the eval, it's a week long, and they check everything from head to toe, scans, antibodies. I have multiple surgical procedures scheduled, EGDs, colonoscopies. I'll also be having a biopsy done on my pancreas, my liver, my kidneys, my thyroid, and I will be having open tissue biopsies on my small and large intestines. That has never been done on me because it's an open surgical procedure, and because I'm on blood thinners, it's not something that I wanted to risk. But it is required for this surgery, so that if we're missing a key piece of information like a deficiency or a protein that's attacking my intestines or anything like that, that they would see that. The reasons I could be precluded from surgery after eval include infection, thrombosis, or blood clots. If they were to say that psychologically I couldn't handle it, or that financially I can't afford it, or that they don't expect my life expectancy to be at least 5 years. You cannot have any kind of life-threatening infection or cancer or anything that could, and even if it wouldn't, like even if I had thyroid cancer again, that's not going to kill me in 5 years. But you cannot have anything that is considered life-threatening, with the exception of something related directly to your TPN, like sepsis or DVD blood clots from your central line. Because all of my complications are a direct result of the TPN, that is actually what makes me a candidate. We did not even know about transplants, didn't even know that it was something that was ever done. It had never been mentioned to us before. And then in September, when I was admitted, 20 days after getting this line, and I was septic, and they found 4 blood clots, and I was diagnosed with a hepatic injury. They came in and they said, unfortunately, we are at the last resort. No. We are at the last resort treatment, which is a transplant. They do not believe I can sustain life at all on my own and without a transplant, because I'm missing the part in my small intestines that does absorption. And so even if I could force myself to eat and suffer the horrid consequences of doing that, my body does not absorb nutrition, and it can't remove nutrition. So throwing up is the only way to do it. So the reasons that I got qualified, so to speak, so quickly for the transplant board are because I was septic, I was diagnosed with hepatic injury, and I have DVD blood clots. I still have a large clot in my jugular vein that is right behind this line. And it has not gotten smaller. It has not changed since starting blood thinners over 3 months ago. I am on prophylactic vancomycin and gentamicin. That means that hopefully if I get an infection, those things would tackle it before I was septic or became very sick. The downside of that is that I have no immune system whatsoever. If someone comes to my house sick, or I go somewhere where there's someone sick, I'm gonna get sick. And if I get sick, I end up in the hospital. So I am not leaving the house very often, except to watch my kids play basketball. And I'm trying to be super cautious, so that there isn't anything that would keep me from getting on a plane in January to go to Miami. So transplant, at the end of that evaluation, the transplant board will meet on the final day, on that Friday, the 17th. It's actually Gabe's birthday. And they will let us know their ultimate decision, whether it's preclusion or adding me. And then at that point, if I decided to be added, we would meet with a legal team and go over everything from advanced directives to, there's a lot. It's a lot. So that's where the transplant stands. Why do I need it? Because they don't want me on TPN. I say way too much, and I'm so sorry. Basically, my doctors have said that TPN in my particular case is like walking around with a bomb in my chest. I've developed all 4 of the major complications, and the longer that I'm on it, the more dangerous it becomes to my overall health. They do not believe that if I go septic again and develop the other complications that I did the first time around with my liver, with my liver and my blood clots. They do not believe that I will be able to continue beating these things. My body is weak and tired, and we've been doing this way too long. And I mean, I can feel it. I can tell you myself, I know what I can and cannot do, and I am at the point where my body is tired. I am exhausted. And I don't want to risk, I don't want to risk anything unnecessarily anyway, but TPN, yes, it's dangerous, but it is sustaining my life. If it was not for TPN, I would not be here. I would not be celebrating Christmas with my babes. So, the goal is to get me off of TPN as soon as possible. Why can't I stop TPN? Because I can't eat by mouth. Even if I do eat by mouth, the suffering that it brings is inconceivable. The only thing I can say, to be completely honest, is that there have been times I've actually prayed for death. There's nothing like it. I can't compare it to anything else. I can't expect you to understand it, except to say that the suffering is so great that I can look at the suffering in a season of that and say that it's great enough that even though I love my family and my children and my husband more than anything on the planet, that the suffering sometimes is more. And I sometimes can't muster the strength to do it. I have no way of treating the symptoms or stopping the suffering. Not to mention my body doesn't do anything with food, so until I eventually throw it up, I'm not absorbing anything. It's not moving food. There's literally no point to it. And the goal of a transplant would be that I would be able to eat by mouth, and that even if it was really small amounts, and even if there was nausea and vomiting or whatever else, that I would be absorbing it because I would not be using broken parts. I had the part of my small intestines, not knowingly to me, obviously, but I had the parts of my small intestines that did all of the absorbing removed, and at the same time as my stomach was removed. And unfortunately, I developed very rare is what they told us. It wasn't rare. But very rare complication of that, which is severe malabsorption and severe malnourishment. Like I said, my labs and stuff, my labs are crap. They never really seem to get better. They're stable. And when I say stable, I mean things like my magnesium is around 1.5. So it's not normal by any means, but they're better than non-existent, which I have been very close to many, many times. But anyway, so goal is to get me off of TPN. And then, in going to Miami, I'm still hopeful that they find something, a missing piece or a missing anything. I would love to need anything but a transplant. But all three roads here are difficult. And when I say difficult, it's the kind of difficult that you just can't even fathom until you've been there. I can stay on TPN and honestly hope and pray for the best and do my best. And TPN can have catastrophic results, or I could live a few years on it without any more problems. That's very unlikely because of what I've already developed as a result of it. I could stop TPN, and ultimately starvation would be what that looks like. And I can go to Miami and I can have a transplant, which there's just no, I don't feel like there's a winning here. What our goal is here is quality of life, and yes, I want to live as long as possible. I think I've been saying I wanted to be a grandma for the last 16 years, and my daughter's only 16. That is my goal. I want to see all my babies graduate. I want to see my babies get married. I want to have grandbabies. So every time I'm thinking about these things, I'm thinking about it with those lenses, because that is my ultimate goal. I know I won't live to be old. It's not possible without God himself. And so maybe I'll outlive all y'all. Maybe God will see fit to cure me on this side of heaven and I'll be the super old lady. But realistically, I might not be. And I'm okay with that. But I'm not okay with missing out on those things with my with my babies and my my new little friend who is not acting like much of a service dog right now. But anyway, so that's where we are. Transplant will not be in January. That is when ultimately it will be decided if I am strong enough for a transplant and if that is the best thing, if that gets me the most quality of life, and if that gets me the longest life. Gabe and I have discussed this at length, and this isn't about me living, I want to live 10 or 15 years. I don't care how I do it. No, I want to live well and I want to be happy. I don't want to be dying for 15 years, if that makes any sense. I don't see a point in living if you're not actually alive. And so my goal is absolutely finding the thing that yields the longest life and yields the best days. Apparently I don't know how to talk, so I just say like a billion times. So that's where we are. That's what the transplant situation is. I'm so annoying. I'm annoying myself. But that's where we are. I just wanted to kind of answer those questions because a lot of people haven't heard about the transplants. And like I said, that's not unheard of because we had not even heard of it. If you had mentioned something like an intestinal or multivisceral transplant to us 4 months ago, I would have laughed in your face and said, doctors don't even do that. But they do it. It's just very, very, very rare. And you have to be the quote unquote perfect candidate. And you have to meet very scary qualifications, which means they have to think my life is way more at risk without doing it than it is by doing it. Because the surgery care it's crazy. And I won't get into those details because it doesn't help me sleep at night, but it's crazy. So if you have any more questions, that's where we are. If I'm able to financially do everything and stay infection free, we go to Miami in exactly a month. So please keep sharing the GoFundMe. Please keep praying for a miracle, for support, and for wisdom as we make what will absolutely be the hardest decisions of my life, and the ones that decide, how long I get here. I'm not afraid of dying. I just don't want to. All right, say bye, Sadie. Bye. And yes, I'm wearing a Santa shirt. So there. Okay, bye, guys.